In today's adventure of an episode, we're reading some more PettyRevenge. Gonna be a beautiful episode, and I hope you guys are excited. PettyRevenge is always so satisfying and so fun to read, so yeah, definitely excited for this. And with that being said, enjoy, guys. Two girls rolled their eyes at me at a restaurant while I was only trying to be nice. Fine, keep waiting then. I was having lunch at this restaurant last Sunday with my friend. All the other tables were occupied. Two girls appeared, but since it was packed and there were no empty tables nor vacant seat, they just stood there, awkwardly looking around, waiting for some people to get up and leave. I told them we're almost finished so they could have our table after we left, but instead of being thankful, they just threw me a dirty look and rolled their eyes as if I was trying to flirt with them. My face went red and I didn't know what to say. I was only trying to be nice. It wasn't as if I was trying to initiate a small talk with them or something. Then my embarrassment turned to anger. The least they could do is just nod their heads. Then I heard one of them say to the other maybe they should just go to another restaurant, and her friend said no because it was the only Chinese restaurant in the vicinity of their place, and also because that guy, she pointed at me with her lips in a not so subtle way, was almost done. Fine, I raised my hand and I called one of the waiters and I told her I'd like to have more drinks, which she brought out a few minutes later. My friend was trying so hard to stifle his laughter, I swear he broke a rib or two, while we very slowly ate the rest of our meal. The rude girls left quickly after. Yeah, well, not only is that super rude, but also kind of confusing. Like, that's a weird way for them to respond to what you said. Did they mishear you or something? It's sort of confusing that they'd react like this. Like, why the hell would you think OP was trying to flirt when all they said was, we're almost finished, you could have our table after we leave? Like, that's not flirting. Like, oh my god, I can't believe you would say such a thing. You're being so helpful for no reason. Are you trying to flirt with me? No. But yeah, good on you, OP, you did the right thing. The next one is called Friend's Evil Stepmother Dies, and what is done with the life insurance is awesome. I have a dear friend, Shannon, fake name, in her early 60s, and as a toddler, her parents divorced and dad remarried a petty woman, Cruella, who wanted him to cut ties with Shannon. They did still manage to have a relationship, but not as close as it should have been during her years of growing up. Shannon married young and struggled a lot, but raised her three girls into young women who all now have families of their own, and Shannon is now a proud grandmother and great-grandmother. But back to Cruella. When Shannon was still in her 20s and had left her first husband, a cheater and criminal, for her own sanity and the safety of her and her daughters, her dad had told her to come home and he'd help her with a place to stay. She controlled the finances, said that she was unwelcome and on her own. Shannon figured it out, and again the girls grew up healthy and loved, and Shannon remarried a loving man, but for 30 years she was never allowed to visit her father for Christmas or holidays or birthdays. Cruella died this year. Shannon was invited for Christmas, and her father surprised her by letting her know that he was paying off her mortgage. It could never make up for not being there when she was younger, but it could give her some comfort now that she's retired. When they went to the bank today, she learned where the money came from. It's Cruella's life insurance payout. Cruella would roll over in the grave if she knew that her life insurance went to pay off the house of the stepdaughter that she wanted to deny existed for nearly her whole life. Like, yeah, at least something positive is happening now, but that's so sad. Like this comment says, I'll never understand divorced parents who pick a crappy new spouse over their children. It sickens me. Yeah, 100%. It's so sad. The next one is called I Made My Manager's Ugly Baby Uglier. Years ago, I worked for a large retail chain under your typical promoter because he's one of the boys' manager. He didn't do much that actually needed doing in our department, and even foisted things like employee reviews, product resets and counts, etc. off onto me. He mostly hung out shooting the crap with his buddies and chatting with customers, although he didn't sell much because he always tried to push everybody towards the highest end product, even if a more moderate one would suit the customers better. The company rewarded him with prizes like trips and gadgets for our high sales that I largely made, with a team I trained, and then he would brag about all the cool stuff he got. I didn't like him much. One thing he loved talking about constantly was his baby, maybe 9 months old. He even made a picture of the little tyke, the wallpaper on our display computer. I get being a proud papa, but on top of me already being annoyed with him for being a crappy boss, his baby was weird looking. Nothing was wrong with the baby health-wise, but it was bug-eyed and big-headed like its daddy. This was especially highlighted because babies are already naturally a little bit like that, and this kid was like if Megamind got with a pug, and I had to look at a picture of it all day, and all the customers saw it, so I went into a photo editing software and I increased the size of the kid's eyes by about another 10%. No! Not enough for daddy to notice, but enough that it was startling if you were seeing the picture for the first time. Uncanny Valley vibes. People would subtly react when boss man showed them the picture and talked about the kid? Like they wanted to say something, but absolutely knew they should not. It was small, it was petty, and I still giggle about it years later. Hopefully the kid grew up to look like mama. Oh my god, OP, that's diabolical. You edited the photo. It's one of those situations where I feel bad for laughing, but at the same time don't. Like it's evil, but I understand why you did it. I and a group purposefully walked in front of somebody's camera who was recording in the gym. I'll start this off by saying this was a group effort. Now, I was at my local gym and it was pretty busy. I had managed to find an empty bench where the dumbbell racks were. Another woman had also set up shop on a bench, but rather than using the bench for its intended purposes, she was using it to hold her things. Instead, she had her camera set up right in front of the rack, like it was propped up against the rack while she lifted weights about 4 feet in front of the dumbbells. It was really annoying and I was upset because I was in her shot and I didn't want to be recorded. I was about to go to the front desk and tell an employee when I see a man walk in front of her camera to put his weights down. The woman got a disgruntled look on her face, stopped lifting, walked over to the camera and I guess stopped recording and restarted it. She started lifting again when the same man walked in front of her camera, and that's when I noticed he purposefully went out of his way to walk in front of her camera. She once again stopped lifting to stop the camera, looking even more frustrated. She turned to the man and said, "Could you not? You can see that I'm recording." To which he responded, "Could you not? You can see people are trying to actually work out." After that, she went back to what she was doing, recording, but more people started going out of their way to walk between her and her camera. I joined in too, adding an overly polite "excuse me," along with a smile when I did so. Finally, she gave up, looking as if she wanted to throw a temper tantrum, and stormed out of the gym. Yeah, that's so frustrating. You're in a public gym. Like, of course you're gonna have people walking in front of the camera, and the fact that they feel so entitled that they feel like everybody else shouldn't and should completely work around what they're doing. That's so ridiculous. Yeah, that's super annoying. Like, recording yourself in there is one thing, but if you're gonna record yourself in there, make sure you don't bother anybody else, and also expect people to walk in front of the camera because they're going to. But yeah, bothering everybody else in the gym and also acting super entitled, nah, that sucks. The next one is called "So You Put an Expensive Tracker on My $400 Truck and You Want It Back." An insurance company has been investigating our shop for supposedly insurance fraud over a car with a bad engine that was replaced with what we and the cops later found out to be a stolen one. A few weeks ago, I noticed a clean spot on my really dirty truck that I never wash, and I checked it out and I found a GPS tracker. I didn't plan on keeping the truck this year and I had plans to ship it to Mexico in the spring. I told my friend about the tracker and he said he's going to take care of it when he picks the truck up. My friend took the truck into the most cartel-infested place in Sonora and disabled it there. I already had a new truck under somebody else's name, so I drove that around to parts stores and dealers. I was leaving a dealer when a clean-cut guy asked if I owned a truck, and I told him I used to. He then identified himself as a private detective working for the insurance company and was curious about what happened to my old truck. I cracked a joke that sometimes it wanders off at night and usually comes back when it's on a quarter tank, usually 6 to 8 months. He tried to nonchalantly ask where the truck might physically be, and that's when I told him I'd found the tracker. He knew, I knew, and his tone changed asking for it back like a little kid who got his ball bullied away from him. I told him the truck is in Mexico with a written address for it and who to talk to about getting it back. He knew he couldn't call the cops because his ass will get arrested, but tried again to demand his GPS back. I brushed him off and I told him he can get it back from Mexico himself, and that was the last I saw of him. We found another GPS in a different truck at work, so we took it to the desert and blew it up. I'm sure they've been GPSing us thinking that we have some kind of insane stolen car parts hoard, but all of our stuff comes from dealers and scrap yards. There's a comment here that says, "Good one. Did I understand correctly that they thought you were using this and the other truck for hauling in stolen parts, and they can find out where you're picking up the parts from?" I wonder how the trackers work. I mean, if they had a SIM card or another cell network-based communication with the base station, if this was the case, they could have gotten a sweet roaming bill for all the data signals coming out of Mexico. No? And OP said more or less yes, but even my sketchy sources are legitimate. We just do cash under the table. The engine came through a remanufactured engine supplier, so as far as we know, it's on that company and the insurance. The only reason we ever knew it was possibly stolen is because it was in really good shape, like almost brand new, which is rare. I'm sure that's why he came up to me at the dealership I go to all the time. He probably saw the signal pop up at the border. Interesting. And you just went and blew up the tracker. Hell yeah, OP. The next one is called Last Minute Mandatory Saturday Training. Fine, but you're gonna feel that mileage. 15 years ago, I worked at a company that had regular mandatory training courses throughout the year. They always gave us plenty of notice, and we, co-workers, would usually carpool together to make the 1 hour drive less boring, and it also saved the company money as they paid for mileage. There would be 5 employees in one vehicle, which was fine. But after a few years, the company became really concerned with their profit, and they seemed seemed to no longer care about the employees. So one day they decided that employees had a mandatory training, but it was the following day, a Saturday, without even 24 hours notice. They didn't care that we all had plans and families. The training was mandatory. So I went to every employee and I shared my concern that the training tomorrow was way too short notice to carpool. I made sure we were all aware that it was too late to arrange a carpool for the 1 hour drive. We'd all have to drive ourselves. So the next day, 45 employees drove their own vehicle to the training. The parking lot was full and some had to park in an overflow area or on the street. The admins were livid on Monday when they got 45 mileage sheets and found out how expensive a last-minute mandatory training could be. Yeah, literally, the top comment, glorious. Yeah, and like this comment under it says, this is the perfect petty revenge. You treat your employees good and they'll put out good work and they'll try to be good employees, but if you suddenly treat them like numbers, so too will they treat you like numbers. The next one is called insist on repeatedly texting the wrong number. Eventually you won't like my response. Texting the wrong number. It happens, it's not really a big deal normally. Usually I just ignore it if I think it's spam, or I politely text them back to let them know they've got the wrong number. For some reason, there was one person who repeated to do this every vacation holiday over the course of about 12 to 18 months. It was about 5 times total and always in the middle of the night for me. Texts were always asking how their horse was. Each time I would respond and say it was the wrong number. Each time the person would write back and apologize, saying that where they boarded their horse had a number 1 digit different, hence the mistake. Again, I get that it happens, but after twice, wouldn't you just program the correct number into your phone? When it happened 4 times, I politely texted back asking if they were ever planning on actually programming the correct number into their phone. They replied saying yes, they would do that immediately. I was about to block the number, but I decided to wait and have some fun if they texted again. Predictably, a few months later they did. Stranger, hi, just checking in to see how my horse is doing. I hope he's okay. Me, unfortunately, he's not doing well. I tried calling in the large animal vet, but they said he's not gonna make it. We're about to take him out to the back and put him down, old Yeller style. Let me know if you want the body whole or cremated. Alternatively, we can process it and save the meat for you. Stranger, well, I realize now that I texted the wrong number, but you don't have to be mean about it. And they never texted me again. Also, to be clear, I'm very much an animal lover. I was also very much annoyed. Edit to add, since numerous people asked why I didn't just block the number after the first text, I do that now. This was a few years ago. I was a pretty private person and not a lot of people had my number, so it was really rare for me to get a wrong number text. Now I block them, especially with the excess spam texting these days. Also, if I had done that back then, I wouldn't be able to amuse myself and others remembering this story. And yeah, once again, absolutely diabolical and evil, but at the same time, I understand. They had so many opportunities to get rid of your number, but they're like, nah, I'll just keep texting it. Well, yeah, not anymore. Make inappropriate false accusations to HR, you get fired instead. I work in semiconductor, and recently a female employee, female 22, was moved to my male 34 area and I had to train her. Now it's important for me to inform that it's a well-known fact at work that this girl is flirty, inappropriate, and she's gotten several men fired and reported just as many to HR. Her file must be thick. To the story, as soon as she moved to my area, I could see that she was shy with me and a little flirty. As the days went by, she became more and more flirtatious and very hands-on, touchy-feely type. She would even say how cute she thinks I am, etc. I admit I played back with her, but never in an appropriate sort of manner. She added me on social media and we exchanged information as she expressed interest in hanging out. I guess one weekend she saw on social media I'd gone to the park one day, and when I came back to work the following week, she was acting very odd and angry. Turns out she was upset I never called and was acting very immature and overall crazy that somebody would get that mad, considering we never officially made plans or anything. A few weeks later, the same flirty behavior was still going on. I ended up missing a few days of work due to a bad stomach bug. I couldn't eat or drink or anything, so I did miss some work. After a couple of days of being in bed, I felt well enough to look at my phone, and I had a ton of notifications, a few from her being so angry that I left it on red, and she tried to get a hold of me multiple times without any success. The following Monday, I got to work, and of course she was angry, but I just ignored her and I kept on working. Shortly after, the manager came up to me and told me to get my stuff because I was being moved. I kind of figured this had something to do with the girl, but I wasn't sure, so I asked. Turns out she told them that I've asked her out repeatedly and she's turned me down every time, and that I've been mean to her ever since she turned me down, and that I refused to help her with any work. All very untrue. This was escalated to HR, and soon after I get a call from HR explaining there's an open investigation on me for what the girl had said. I denied all the accusations and I told them I had no problem sending them screenshots proving that it's a lie. So I sent them all the messages with her calling me honey, telling me I'm cute, and 3 days before her complaint, in one of her last messages to me, she had asked me to hang out when we have time off together. The last message I sent to HR was a message from the girl apologizing for slapping me in the face at work twice. She did this in an immature sort of flirting type of way, but I was pretty mad and I never said anything, just kept the text. After she made up lies trying to get me fired because I left her on read for too long, I figured that HR would like to see a message from a girl who's admitting to assaulting somebody at work unprovoked. Needless to say, a couple of weeks after the investigation began, she was fired and all was right in my world again. Okay, this one is by far the best one we've read today. That was so satisfying. The top comment says she sounds like a real sociopath, and OP under it said, she might be. She's so possessive, it's crazy. Not once did I ever see her outside of work, and she was insanely possessive, almost like she thinks she owns you. If you do anything without her knowledge, she flips. One of her old friends told me that she went on a vacation. Well, at work, when the girl noticed she was gone and found out her friend was on vacation, she flipped out, not only because she didn't get invited, but because she wasn't notified that it was happening. Yeah, that's unbelievable. I left the boot of an Uber open after driver treated me and my family with contempt. I was looking for an Uber Premium to schlep 3 adults and 2 kids to the airport, along with an assortment of luggage. The driver showed up in a small vehicle and refused to admit that he cheated me by registering his stinking small vehicle as a premium. He did the bare minimum to figure out how everything will fit together, and while we were very uncomfortable, he had the audacity to stop the vehicle for gas shortly before we reached the airport. At the end of the trip, he was inside the car and looked the other way while I got down and got all of my luggage out. While leaving, I decided not to shut the boot. Walking away, I turned around to stare at him and gloat that he had to step out of his crappy vehicle to close it. Totally worth the 1 star. I like that one. It's pretty harmless, but at the same time, it definitely would have pissed him off. Like, not a huge deal, but like they would have definitely been annoyed. Hell yeah, OP. The next one is called Ex-Roommate Was So Very Dumb. This was around 2000 or so. I was living in a pretty sweet 2-bedroom apartment right above where I was working at the time. My sister's boyfriend had recently moved to town and needed a place to stay. We were already kind of friends, so I gave him a bedroom. Rent was split, but it was still my place overall. He had a pretty annoying habit of making food and then eating it in his room and leaving the dirty dishes in there. I bugged him about it for a while until he finally started at least putting them in the sink. Still dirty, but at least accessible. Eventually, I got pretty mad about this, and I basically told him to clean the bloody dishes. His reply, "That's not happening." Oh my god. I hope you kick them straight out. How garbage do you have to be to stay at somebody else's place and then bloody act like this? Gross. Yeah, okay then. For the whole time he'd been living there, he was allowed to use my computer, pretty badass gaming rig that I'd built, to check his emails and crap. After he said that garbage about the dishes, I had a little idea. When he left for work that day, I hopped on the internet and found a free tiny program called BootLocker. It basically locked a computer with a black screen with a password prompt. No password, no computer. It even had an option to lock the BIOS if the PC was rebooted. It would ask for the password before even booting. There was also an option to include some words below the password prompt. I chose clean dishes equals checked email. Then I went about my day. Needless to say, when I got home later, he finished work and was there before me. The dishes were clean, but he was not happy. Poor little baby. Cue his revenge. He had a pretty fancy Sony TV that was in the living room. I had it hooked up to a computer so movies could be watched or games could be played, etc. On the sweet big screen, 32 inches was way bigger than my monitor lol. Plus we had free cable from work downstairs. After the bootlocker thing, he thought he'd get me back by activating the parental controls on his TV. I get home after work, he's not home, and I go to watch some TV. No go without a 4-digit code. It took me roughly 2 minutes online to find it. What do I do if I forget my Sony TV code? The look on his face when I got home and I was watching TV was bloody golden. He moved out not too long after. Yeah, like these comments say, that's not happening. Been in a similar situation, although I needed the rent money so I did nothing. Today, however, they would be out the door very fast. I'd make sure they'd be. And OP said same thing with me lol. If I didn't need his money, his crap would have been packed right after that comment was made. Yeah, I was gonna say, why didn't you kick them out immediately? But yeah, he was paying you rent and you needed it. That makes a lot more sense. And on that note, I feel like that's enough of this subreddit for today. As much as I love reading about petty revenge stories, I feel like that's enough. I'll make sure to make a new episode on here super soon. So yeah, I hope you had a good time today, guys. And let's read something wholesome. I had to stop saying that my job is easy, and I had to start saying that I'm very good at my job. Language matters. Don't ever downplay yourself. Wow, that's so true. Like, yeah, is it an easy job or are you absolutely killing it? Because yeah, it could definitely be the second one. Our husbands offered to babysit while we went out so they could watch basketball and eat wings. Not the ranch on his thigh. That's so cute. And yeah, the ranch on his leg and they're dipping out of it. That's so awesome. A couple of kings having a good day. Oh my god, I found him. No way. It's the exact same kitty cat. That's so cute. Like the really big head and the super small body. It's like the opposite of Nez. She has a tiny head and a ginormous body. Yeah, that's so beautiful. When life gives gives you crap, take the crap and use it as fertilizer for better things to come. The top comment says, maybe use gloves though. Yeah, that's a very good point. I love this comic, but yeah, that second frame is definitely making me a little bit uncomfortable. Got a big handful of doo-doo. But yeah, that's right. That's a really good message. Take the bad, turn it into something good. And on that note, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more episodes like this, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to Zoe. Hey, 10 minutes awake and my morning cup of Vincey is already hot and ready. Perfect way to start a Friday. Thank you kindly, good sir. That is absolutely okay. I appreciate the support and I hope you enjoyed your morning cup of Vincey. I don't necessarily know what that means, but I did know this had to be the comment of the day today. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'm glad you enjoyed the episodes. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time for a brand new episode. And yeah, guys, thank you all for the support. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!